Modern chess designs. I'm Rick, and ancientchess.com is my website. Contact me through there, and also you can get chess sets like the ones I'll be showing you through this website. Around the middle of the 20th century, people realized that everything was changing just forever in ways that they never imagined possible. And a lot of artists took it upon themselves to change things in accordance with the changes of the times. And exactly what that meant, of course, meant different things to different people, as we now take for granted. But in those days, just the fact that everything was changing was big, real big. This book chronicles an exhibit that was given in New York in 1944 and 45. Now that's already more than 65 years ago, but that was, you could say, the beginning of the modern era of chess sets. Let's just look at what they did a little bit. Here's some things by Duchamp, who famously quit art for chess because he said all chess players are artists, but not all artists are chess players, so what are you going to do? You're going to play chess. Now, if you ask me, this isn't too far a step beyond the urinal made into art. It's just chess pieces with their tops kind of smoothed over and a little bit stylized, a kind of strange looking knight. And there you go, different colors. That's one idea. Just alter the chess sets a little bit. Alter standard chess pieces a little. Now here we've got Max Ernst really going very geometric on us. And this really gives you the idea of streamlining, the idea of geometry. This piece, by the way, is wood turned. It's very hard to turn a piece like this. I talked to a wood turner. He said he doesn't know if he can make a piece like this. It just looks like a simple design, but a lot went into just creating something new in chess. It's kind of like space age or futuristic, I guess is what we call it nowadays. It's funny because it's all considered modern, but now it's old modern. This is a very famous design by Man Ray. His name is Man Ray. His first name is Man. And the geometry is all about this, but also classic design. Another big theme in modernization, just throwing in a classic shape of an urn and the classic scroll on the end of a violin, along with cubes, spheres, cones, and pyramids. Another classic design. So let me see, I just have a couple more things here to show you. Okay, form follows function, another big idea in design. Okay, here you have a little figure of a thing that points diagonally for the bishop, square, of course, for the rook. That works, it's a cube. This kind of angular, funny little thing for the knight, showing that he moves at this angle. And a little something for the king and queen, not so specifically form of function related, but keeping in with the general style of the set. Now here's another thing. Who's this by? Tangoy. And what I'd like to point out here is you've got a preference for a certain kind of shape. Here we've got cylinders. It's all about cylinders. The simpler the better. And it's cylinders. Okay, we're gonna show you sets with that going on too. And look at this. This is this little thing, piecing things together. It's by Noguchi. It's a very famous set. This one was actually recreated from his sketches. It reminds me of this little guy here. This is a toy that my kids have around the house. It's from these little pieces that fit together. Well, that's what Noguchi was doing, but he was making his own pieces to fit together in certain ways, and they look a lot like those playground sets they used to have when I was a little kid that you couldn't really have much fun on, but somebody thought they were modern art, so they made a whole bunch of them, gave them to us. Okay, so there's some of our ideas: streamlining, form following function, geometry, classic designs, and then just preferences for a certain shape, seeing what you could do with it. Now this isn't really a modern set, but I'd like to take this at a point of departure. This is a standard set with an accentuated knight. Not too big of a deal. It's called a derby set because the knight looks more like a trophy than it looks like a standard knight, and it's bigger proportionally than a knight usually is in a set. Small preference. But I'd like to point out how our set, a standard set, is already a very great artistic statement. The pieces, if you look at the architecture from the days when these sets came out, you'll see the columns are classic Roman Greek devices. There was a lot of that going on in architecture in England at that time. If you look at the architecture of Christopher Wren, for instance, you'll see things that look almost exactly like pawns, columns that look almost exactly like chess pieces. So the architecture was going on. You have this slant in the bishop, giving a suggestion of that slantwise motion. The knight is the only piece that's really not straight up, crooked, giving you a suggestion of the knight's crooked movement. The queen is taller than the others, suggesting her power, and even her crown gives the suggestion that she moves in all directions. The rook is looking like a castle, which doesn't make sense on the battlefield, but it is very square and gives a suggestion of that. So you've already got this form-following function. You've already got this classic art. You've already got an aesthetic of streamlinedness. Now here's a set that takes the streamlined sense further. You see, everything's just been smoothed out. I call these the new galaxy pieces because of the way they're smoothed out. And it's very easy for a modern chess player to recognize these and just about anything that I'll show you here, because these are actually made for playing with, but with very strong preferences for a certain kind of design. You're not going to see a set like this in a tournament, but if you walk into somebody's house and you want to play a game of chess with a set like this, you're going to know what the pieces are immediately. You can just see what I'm talking about. Smooth, streamlined, the ball's taken off the bishop, the contours are taken off the edges of the rook, the pawn is made just more of a knob and less of a pedestal, and the knight, on the other hand, is just a classic horse with special detailing. So that's one approach. Now let's look at really going for a certain kind of figure. This is called the hourglass figure, where, well, hourglass figure looks good on people, right? It's the classic, you know, 36, 24, 36, what a winning hand, right? You know that song? Well, anyway, this is the hourglass figure chess set. Well, they're all pretty much shaped the same, but they're clearly made to be the chess set pieces they represent: a rook, a king, a queen. The knight's going a little bit off the hourglass form. He's just fitting in, but just simplified as a knight form. So along those same lines, a cone-shaped set. The preference here is the shape of cones. Also very elegant and clear to tell who's who: king, queen, bishop, knight, rook. The rook has this indentation in the top, so viewing it in a regular game, you'll see very clearly that it has the feeling of a rook. And of course, the king's got this classic crown. Very straightforward, very simplified, and the idea is the cone shape. Goes together, the pieces all go together very well with each other. Now here's something that takes the cone shape but then flares it out a bit. I call this the modern Gothic set, because to me these pieces look like a kind of medieval design made modern. The shape gives the feeling of the helmets of battles centuries ago, and yet their designs are so simplified and streamlined, you can't help but seeing this as a modern set. Sort of a strong statement, if you will, in chess designs. Let's see. Now this is another preference, the champagne flute set. You can see this is sort of a champagne, well, sort of two different ideas of champagne flute are mixed in with this set, and then a few other pieces. Oops, that's the other piece. A few other pieces that just go along with it. It's not just, that's a champagne flute is what I call it, but it also conveys the idea of kind of things growing out, like sort of bubbling out or growing out of a surface. Notice the bases are all identical, and yet the thing that flows up out of them flows naturally but then varies in a way depending upon exactly which piece it is. This is reminiscent of that simplified bishop that I showed you that just had the top smooth over, but of course in this piece the entire thing is smoothed over. So I hope you're getting some idea of what I meant about the preferences for different shapes and the way that they're made into a cohesive set by the designer. Now, chess sets, you'll notice that these sets I'm showing you are all wood, and that's my preference, or I like wooden chess sets. Really, the modern designs are made in plastic, metal, plexiglass, just about anything, straw. I mean, you know, that's part of the idea that they've experimented with. But many of these sets would also be available in different materials, but wood is kind of always a winner and was used throughout the renovations of the modern designs. Now here is something I call the Cubist set for obvious reasons. The cube is a desired shape, and part of the idea there is that modern artists have always had a problem with squares. They've either got to accommodate the square or change the square, but just accepting the square as the ground and then putting things on it like we do with the standard chess set, that can be a problem for the modern artist. So in this case, the artist has decided to go with the square. Say, make everything square. Okay, it's going to be on a square chessboard. It's going to be square pieces, so they fit in a way that rounded pieces never can. They are totally at home on a chessboard proper. You see here also the it's kind of the hourglass preference as well, but now made square, so you wouldn't really call it an hourglass per se. The pieces are pretty clear what they are. This is the furthest out that these sets go as far as being identifiable as chessmen. The knight is very clear when you see it from profile. The pawn is very clear because it's the smallest. The king the king is very clear. The queen just sort of has to be the queen because she's such a big, powerful piece, even a little bit large, even challenging the king for height there. Of course, she is the most powerful piece on the board, and so you're not going to mistake her for any of the weaker pieces. The bishop is interesting here. They've chosen to give it this slant, which really strongly suggests the move of the bishop, the diagonal move of the bishop. And so once again, they're preferring form to follow function there. The rook is made a little elegant with a little head, and of course it's like everything, it's square, and just like the traditional rook, it suggests squareness of movement, but you can't always follow that in this set because many pieces are square just for the sake of being square. So that's what I've got to show at the moment for chess designs. Please feel free to browse my site, Ancient Chess. Contact me if you'd like to regarding these or any other chess sets. My thing is the history of chess and chess around the world, so you'll find a lot of information about that right here on ancientchess.com.